Post-credit scenes have gone very popular over the years, with Marvel popularizing post-credit scenes to sell even more tickets. But even though we've gotten so many post-credit scenes from Marvel alone, we also saw a lot of other movies use post-credit scenes too. And let's just say, not all of them have been good. So today I want to go over with you guys some of the worst post-credit scenes and some of the worst poorly aged post-credit scenes we've seen from throughout the years. And before we get into some of the worst post-credit scenes ever, make sure to like and subscribe because 99% of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So the least you can do is subscribe before we get into these atrocities that we know as post-credit scenes. Starting off with what I consider one of the funniest yet worse post-credit scenes is the Morbius post-credit scenes. Now, have I seen Morbius? No. Have you seen Morbius? I'm pretty sure you didn't because it bombed horribly in the box office, not just once, but twice. Now, even though I haven't seen Morbius, I have indeed seen the post-credit scenes because it's actually iconic. I quote this post-credit scene every single day of my life. When it first released, I didn't watch it, and then I heard the post-credit scene was horrible, so I decided to watch it, and let's just say it's worse than what you think it is. So if you haven't watched the Morbius post-credit scene, and since most of these post-credit scenes I can't play because, I'd get copyright strike and, YouTube would strike down my channel, go watch it on your own time. I'll leave all the links to all the post-credit scenes down in the description. But if you have seen this Morbius post-credit scene, let me try to explain to you on why it's so bad. First off, if you've seen the post-credit scene, it's so obvious that they couldn't get Jared Leto and Michael Keaton's Vulture in one room because you'd obviously tell the lighting's off, their words are not matching each other. Morbius is just saying random words that can go with any person's dialogue. My favorite one is when he says, "Intriguing." Also, another one of my favorite lines that I quote every day
has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
Like, in this situation, it has nothing to do with Spider-Man from what these two guys know, but for some reason, the Vulture just has to drop these lines. It feels like a 90s comics where they have to just explain everything to the audience, like the audience is 9-year-olds. It's very weird. You can obviously see that they couldn't get Michael Keaton, that's why he's wearing the mask the whole entire time. It sounds like Michael Keaton sent his lines over on a FaceTime call or like a phone call. These lines do not sound professionally done. This whole post-credit scene is just horrible that I can't even begin to explain. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Like, I consider this a hallmark for bad post-credit scenes. I would just say it's a hallmark in cinema history for just how bad this one post-credit scene is. Now, moving on to Morbius, let's get on to a more recent one. The Superman cameo post-credit scenes for Black Adam. Now, Black Adam, also another movie that, considering all situations, it kind of did bomb because it was supposed to be a huge hit. They had brought The Rock, they had brought so many big actors into this one movie, and for what it was supposed to be, it bombed. Now, when we talk about the post-credit scenes, I was hyped when I saw Superman come back. I was like, oh, Superman's back, he's gonna fight Black Adam. Superman versus Black Adam was the movie they're preparing for. Well, this post-credit scene aged horribly. It aged like spoiled milk. We are never going to get to see this fight. Since that post-credit scene, The Rock is not Black Adam anymore. The whole DCEU is in the bin. Henry Cavill is not going to be Superman anymore. This scene is completely horrible if you ever come back to this movie because it's just a post-credit scene that will never be fulfilled. It's just a whatever post-credit scene. It's like the Green Lantern post-credit scene when Sinestro puts on the yellow ring and it's like, is that going to go somewhere? No, this movie bombed. This is never going to go anywhere. Same thing with Superman and Black Adam. It was supposed to set up a whole DC universe. It was supposed to, build up to a grandiose plot line. Or how The Rock said it was going to change the DCEU forever. Well, that didn't happen. This movie is the reason why the DCEU is dead. I still did like Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle was good. But this post-credit scene aged like spoiled milk, and we will never see this. It was a good concept. It was cool to see Henry Cavill back, but this has to go down as one of the worst post-credit scenes ever, just off of the fact that we'll never get to see this happen. And since we're talking about poorly aged scenes, we have to mention Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, I know there's a resurgence, a lot of people loving Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, but personally, these movies are bad no matter what people might have you convinced. Obviously, Andrew Garfield, probably the highlight of it, and Emma Stone, both highlights of the second movie. But the movie ends off with a post-credit scene it's not that great. Hinting at some villains to come. Obviously, we have the Rhino scene at the end. So many stuff setting up for the Sinister Six that we will never get to see. And frankly, if we're getting the Sinister Six of this weird Green Goblin, weird New Yorker, Rhino, this fraud that we call a lizard. I don't really want to see what the Sinister Six ended up being, because I don't think they would have executed that good. And not to mention, they just had like a whole hallway of like the Sinister Six, like, oh, we're gonna set this up. Oh, maybe Peter Parker's dad's still alive. Like, this stuff failed so hard, it fell on his face. Obviously, there's a lot of outside factors into why we didn't get an Amazing Spider-Man 3. Personally, this scene aged poorly. I don't think this scene will ever come true. And all those people who say, oh, we will finally get Amazing Spider-Man 3, that will never happen, okay? We just gotta leave that dead in the water. This post-credit scene was pretty bad then and now, looking back at it. I love Andrew Garfield as an Amazing Spider-Man, but that post-credit scene at the end definitely aged horribly. The next post-credit scene I want to talk about is the Transformers post-credit scene, the recent one, the Rise of the Beast Transformers. Now, obviously, a lot of people didn't see the Transformers, but if you did, you know what the post-credit scene I'm talking about. I'm talking about spoilers if you haven't watched this movie. Because I would say it's fairly recent, but if you didn't watch this movie, I don't think you're gonna plan to, and I don't think you care if I spoil a Transformers post-credit scene. So pretty much, at the end of this Transformers movie, a secret agent is talking to our main character, and he gives him a card, and the card pretty much is like, call me, and if you ever need us, you can join our enforcer, whatever. It's a bunch of nonsense, right? A bunch of hoopla. But the whole point of them giving that card is that when he flips that card around, it's the G.I. Joe symbol. Now, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes, the movies, the TV shows, Cobra Commando, I totally forgot the name. But pretty much, they hinted at a G.I. Joe Transformers crossover or whatever this thing is. It's so insane thinking about like, oh, we got two big toy brands and we're going to combine it into this multiverse toy brand of, I don't know what they're doing, Hasbro toy universe. It's such a weird thing when so many of these other like movie franchises tend to Marvelify themselves. G.I. Joe and Transformers shouldn't be an expanded universe. I don't think those two should ever be in a sentence. But they decided to hint at, G.I. Joes are in the Transformers universe. And obviously, I don't think this is ever going to happen, because for the Transformers expectations, it didn't do too well. Rise of the Beast had like one of the most viewed trailers of all Transformers movies of all time. Yet, when it came to the box office, it didn't perform as well as the other Transformers. So we'll probably never see this, and it's just so funny that they even attempted a G.I. Joe Transformers when G.I. Joe isn't even doing so well. They released the Snake Eyes movies, and I can probably name 5 people who watched the Snake Eyes movie. That movie didn't do well. I don't even know why they even attempted this, because what would this even look like? Would the story be Cobra Commando teaming up with Megatron to defeat Optimus Prime and Snake Eyes? Like, what would the story be for this? It feels like a kid's imagination having his 2 random toy franchises fighting against each other, having nothing to do with it. It's like when I was a kid where I had Lego Ninjago and my Ben 10 toys who would take on Green Lantern and Batman. Like, this matchup doesn't make any sense, and I hope this never comes true, because I would feel like I would just be laughing the whole entire time. And finally, for my last post-credit scene, I'm going to talk about, why not talk about some Marvel post-credit scenes? Because, since Marvel is the one who popularized the post-credit scene, why not talk about some Marvel ones? And I'm just going to rapid fire these out there, because there's a lot of bad ones that came out from the recent years. One, the Council of Kings. I don't think I need to explain why this is poorly aged. Jonathan Majors not doing so hot right now, so this is just a poorly aged scene, because they literally dug themselves in a hole, showing that all of the kings are played by the same actor, which kind of rough. I feel bad for the MCU for doing this, and I feel bad for everyone involved. Next up, the recent Marvel's movies with Beast. I don't know if this is ever going to actually happen, and plus Beast looks horrible in this post-credit scene. Next up, Eternals. No one watched Eternals, because I watched Eternals and I fell asleep in Eternals. It has to be one of the movies I hate the most. I don't know how people like this movie. This movie sucked. But pretty much the end credit scene was showing Blade. It teased Blade, and at this point, I don't know when we're ever going to get this Blade movie. This Blade movie has been delayed to hell, and I hope this movie comes out, but I'm a big fan of Blade, but I'm not too highly optimistic about this Blade movie, especially when it's been delayed to hell. And it's been, 3 years from Eternals. I don't know. Eternals has felt forever since this movie got delayed, but we'll see. These are some of the worst post-credit scenes I personally seen from throughout the years. Let me know down in the comments some of the worst or poorly aged post-credit scenes you guys have seen. Obviously, I covered like 5 post-credit scenes, a little bit more when I just rapid fired some of those Marvel ones. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what are the worst post-credit scenes ever, or poorly aged post-credit scenes ever. And make sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. It's free. Just hit the subscribe button. And finally, let me know down in the comments which you guys consider the worst post-credit scene out of all of these. For me, it's Morbius, but it's funny bad. Morbius has to be one of the most funny bad post-credit scenes of all time. Like I said in the beginning, I quote this post-credit scene forever. But that's all I have to say about these post-credits. Let me know if you want to see another one of this, because there are so many other post-credit scenes I could talk about. I can go on and on for days about how many bad post-credit scenes there are, and people don't like to talk about it. Let me know if you want a part 2 of this, and I'll see you guys next time. Later, hater. Peace.